Random J Productions presents the Palm Summer League. Today, we're here at the Vermont International Speedway in Shelburne, Vermont for this year's running of the Reese's Hotring Rumble. On this midsummer afternoon, 40-star drivers are already lined up on pit road as we're just moments away from finally getting back to action here in the Palm Summer League. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Josh, your commentator for today's race, and welcome to Vermont, a unique intermediate racetrack I've personally wanted to see our channel stars race at for quite some time. On the topic of dreams and wishes coming true, one driver's dream certainly came true back in the sandy shores of Daytona, that of course being the Florida native, Matthew Hill. The huge firecracker win helped propel the 90 team up to second in the championship standings. With Hill starting second to dead last here today, it will certainly be a long road if Hill wants to go 2 for 2 here in the Palm Summer League. As for your point leader, Ruiz has remained consistent throughout the summer as he's one of only 3 drivers with 3 top 10 finishes over the course of our first 4 races so far. However, just like Hill, he's also starting towards the tail end of this 40-car field. As for third in points, Random J comes into this race 15 points back from Rodriguez and 9 points back from Hill. With Random starting 5th in row number 3, today could be a golden opportunity for the NR veteran to gain momentum in his final chance to win an NR championship. And finally, there's the pole sitter, Anthony Hernandez. The 88 team is coming off a rather disappointing firecracker week, which ended with a hard crash in the final lap of the Firecracker 400, resulting in the team dropping all the way down to 25th in the point standings. Can this pole perhaps help this team get back on the map in this late stage of the season? But before all these questions and more get answered, let's first take a look at our starting lineup for today's exciting race. So as already mentioned, on the pole is the 88 of Anthony Hernandez, and next to him the 97 of Nathan Stapleton. Row 2, the 2023 PSL champion Brendan Buell, and next to him is his teammate and car owner Bradley Riemann VI. Row 3, the 53 of Random J, who came in this race 3rd in the point standings, and next to him the 01 of Daniel Voiles. Row 4, the 46 of Johnny Hernandez, and next to him the defending series champion Jordan Forbes. Row 5, Jose Angel Gutierrez in the 94, and Matthew Huber in the 98. Row 6, the 11 of Jordan Stout, and next to him the winner from Japan, the 59 of Caleb Rose. Row 7, the 84 of Jaxon Bergem, and next to him Nick Sand, the Reese's car sponsoring today's race. Row 8, the 9 car of Lipsy, and next to him his affiliate teammate, the 28 of Riley Spurly. Row 9, the 10 of Campbell Marsh, and firecracker runner-up Jason Albert in the 4 car. We got 2 former Madhouse Classic winners in row number 10, the 24 of Keyshawn Richardson, and the 99 of Alex Vitale. Row 11, the 17 of Joe T, and the 06 of Madison Chase. Row 12, the 63 of Alexander Rowe, and next to him the 62 of Patrick Miller. Row 13, the 41 of Philip Torres, and next to fellow Dodge driver, the 19 of Kyler Sustry. Row 14, Jack Haas in the 75, and the 03 of Matthew Burnett. Row 15, Owen Miles in the 96, and the 15 of Colin Cropley. Row 16, Dylan Matthews in the 49, and next to her, the 81 of Al Bunch. Back here in row 17 are several point leaders, starting with the point leader of Brian Rodriguez in the 18, and next to him 5th in points, Benny Watson in the 79. Row 18, summer kickoff winner Bibi, who also came in today's race 11th in the point standings, and next to him is 4th in points, Roberto Crown in the 21. We got 2 RC Motorsport drivers in row number 19, the 08 of team owner Alex Moan in the 08, and next to him the 48 of Ryan Wilson. And finally, in row number 20 is our 2 most recent winners here in the Palm Summer League. Of course, Firecracker 400 winner Matthew Hill, who came this race 2nd in the points, while Haley Anderson is our most recent winner at Intermediates, winning Minnesota last month for the Father's Day Classic. Taking a look at the track info here for today's race, we're going to go 48 laps on this 1.45 mile long intermediate that's almost very similar in shape to Phoenix, which we of course test that for preseason Thunder, but of course this track is much bigger than Phoenix. And as you can see, in terms of the banking, it's a complete mystery. The track owners are not disclosed to either us or the public on just how exactly steep the turns are, but if we had to guess, it's anywhere between 18 to 20 degrees, so definitely much steeper than our first intermediate this year at Twin Wing Motegi, but not as steep as a track like Atlanta, so 18 to 20 degrees. It's pretty similar to tracks like Chicagoland or Las Vegas. But anyways, as for the weather here in Vermont, it's 85 degrees Fahrenheit with 8 mile per hour towards the southwest. And finally, as for the pit window, is anywhere between 30 to 35 laps, depending, of course, on the timing of the caution or cautions if we have multiple. And now it is finally time for the most famous words in motorsports here in Vermont.
Drivers, start your engines!
Now, of course, last year's Firecracker winner, Jordan Forrest, went on to win the championship last year, but I'll style up this year's Firecracker winner, who, of course, came in this race second in the point standings. Hey, Matthew Hill, Josh up in the booth, got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, you're fresh off that Firecracker win and right in the thick of this championship battle. How important would they be for you and your team to capitalize on this momentum?
Oh, man, it would be really important. We're really just going to go in and try to get it the best run we can. But yeah, we're just going to go into it, guns a-blazing, right off of the win in the team's hometown, or home state, and we're just going to keep going from there.
All right, man, good luck out there. Have some fun.
Thank you.
Now, another thing I, of course, also mentioned earlier is the fact that this is a racetrack I've been very much wanting to have a race here on the channel for quite some time. And it looks like that wish will finally come true. The pace truck down pit road, the sold-out crowd in Vermont all on their feet as the green flag is out here in the Hot Ring Rumble. Coming to complete the first lap here in Vermont is the 2023 champion, Brendan Beal, leading the way, followed by Nathan Stapleton or Hernandez follows down to third. And you can see there's lots of movement already throughout this entire field. As you come off turn number 2, Beal still with the lead of Hernandez looking to the inside of Staple. Now, of course, mentioned during the track info, the similarities between this track and Phoenix. As we come down the back shoulder, you can see drivers move down the racetrack towards the sort of mini dog leg, which of course provides some extra action and better opportunities for these drivers to pass one another as the rest of the day continues to go on. Coming to lap number 3, Beal still leads with Reese side by side of Staple, making a Dodge 1-2-3 as of now. Random J trying to look to the inside of Hernandez. He's round the back bumper of the 88 car, but instead he's going to stay tucked in behind the 88. Now, another thing to watch for at this track is just how strong the middle line is in turns 3 and 4. As you can see, both the railfan drivers of Beal and Ream got a huge run that time by. It's almost similar to our last intermediate at Minnesota, where the middle just gets strong runs. And it looks like it's going to be the exact same case for today, with the railfan drivers remaining first and second, with Daniel Voiles now moving up to third as it come to lap number 4. Looks like through turns 1 and 2, the entire top 6 all single file, with Anthony Hernandez now at the 6, with his father Johnny looking to the inside of him down the backstretch dog leg. With 2 other teammates also being side by side, that of course being the Baker cars of both Random and Stout. Looks like so far, with the exception of Voiles, everyone into this top 5 are all Dodges, but we've got another Dodge coming up through the field, that being the 98 of Matthew Hubert, as he's side by side with Johnny Hernandez coming to lap number 5, with Random J also on the outside, still side by side with his teammate of Stout, with Daniel Voiles right in the back, but Brad and Ream that time by. But looks like he'll back off. It's come off turn number 2. Now this backstretch dog leg again. Now, of course, going into today's race, Beal is 9th in the point standings, was actually the point leader going into the Firecracker 400 as the only driver who finished this in the top 10 during our first 3 races of the summer up until that point. And it looked like he was going to have a good Firecracker week. Won his dual race, got 3 points from doing that. Of course, subsequently was in the Fast 6, but it wasn't really a factor throughout that entire race. And, of course, involved the last lap caution, which ironically resulted in car number 37 to finish 37th during the summer's biggest race. So Beal is definitely looking for a good day here today. Now, speaking of Daytona dual winners, you see Albert in the 4 car is just outside this top 10, right behind Lipsy in the 9 car, for Campo Marsh in the 10. looks inside the 4 car, do turns 3 and 4 this time by Keisha Ornchin towards the middle track, who of course had his tire issues during that race. As we see, got some drivers 3 wide, just Jaxon, Bergem, Gutierrez, never making contact off before that time by Caleb Rose in the 59 was able to win that battle between those 3 drivers on lap number 7. And because of Rose's strong run that time by, he's now going to be side by side with Jordan Stout for that final top 10 spot. A random chase side by side with Johnny Hernandez coming off turn number 2 still. But now has come off the dog leg. This top 6 remains roughly about the same, with the exception of Matthew Hubert, who got around Anthony Hernandez for that position just now. As now your entire top 6, with the exception of Daniel Voiles, are all Dodge drivers. In fact, I think Daniel Voiles is the only Ford even in this top 15. And now as we're on board with Daniel Voiles in the turns 1 and 2, as this top 6 once again continues to be single file. Behind your top 6, there's a battle for 7th between Anthony Hernandez and Random J. Random on that middle line. He's going to easily get around the 88 car and now challenge Matthew Hubert for 6 to break this almost Dodge stranglehold. Now, as everyone outside this top 7, they all continue to be side by side of one another. With Caleb Rose moving down the racetrack, Riley Spurly trying to peek in between both Stout and Gutierrez that time by. He does move the 94 up the track into turns 1 and 2 there, as Spurly looks to join his fellow NS Racing teammates of Staple and Hubert in this top 10. And speaking of Hubert, here he is side by side with Random J, do turns 3 and 4. But just like last time by, Random maintains the middle line and will easily go around the 98 car. But Anthony Hernandez also side by side with Caleb Rose. Oh, contact between Gutierrez and Johnny Hernandez for the final top 10 spots. Those two are also side by side. Pretty minimum contact, nothing too consequential, but of course, just goes to show you just how close this racing is here in Vermont and in the Palm Summer League in general. Off turn number 2, the side by side continues, this time between teammates of both Johnny and Anthony Hernandez, as now just up ahead, Rose is now side by side of Jordan Forbes. And I think at this point, everyone's getting the memo of just how strong this middle line is in turns 3 and 4. As a little further back, up 4 is moving up the racetrack. You see Gutierrez moving up, Riley Spurly also moving up to the middle, as everyone's trying to gain as many positions as possible in this early portion of the race. Take a look at some drivers a little further back. See Phil Torres on the 41 is the only NS Racing driver outside this top 20 at the moment. But of course, the 2 most notable drivers back here are the point leaders of Brian Rodriguez and Matthew Hill. And if it stays that way for the rest of this race, Random J up in the front could have a huge point there. He's got a battle beating up for second with Brad Reeve to the inside. Nathan Stapleton with Voiles near making it 3 wide that time by the turns 3 and 4. As here comes Stapleton now in the middle, easily clearing Brendan Beal. Nathan Stapleton to the lead here in Vermont, coming to lap number 12. Staple was an absolute rocket off of 4 that time by. He's now almost 0.3 of a second ahead of both railfan drivers as Reem and Beal remain side by side off turn number 2. Behind the Dodge is Random J side by side of Daniel Voiles for 4, with Forbes looming in the background in 6. In turns 3 and 4, you see more drivers moving up to the middle line, including Brad Reem, as he's looking to challenge Staple for the lead off of 4. Looks like he will. Reem and Staple side by side for the lead, coming to lap number 13. It looks like this time by Bradley Reem is going to have the advantage over Staple, as Staple falls down to 2nd and Beal now down to 3rd. While Voiles is going to be side by side with Random for 4th, there's also Vitali and Dylan Matthews in the wall. Bill Torres and Jack Huss also in the wall as well, as we're under caution here in turn number 2. And it looks like out of all the drivers that got damaged, Jack Huss easily got the worst of that exchange with smoke pouring out of that car. He is pretty much done for the day. Heavy rear damage to the 41 Philip Torres. Oh yeah, from that angle you see just how much damage there is to that 41. Well, it looks like both Dylan Matthews and Alexander Vitali, the 2 drivers who started this whole chain reaction, appears to not have too much damage whatsoever. It looks like that time by Bradley Reem maintained his lead, followed by Nathan Stapleton, Random J now up to 3rd, Brendan Beal now down to 4th, and Daniel Voiles rounds off the rest of the top 5. And you can see some of the cloud of smoke from Jack Huss's cars, so it's definitely going to take a while for track officials to clean some of that up, as everyone's coming up pit road this time by. Of course, led by aforementioned top 5, as for everyone else is at the top 10. Anthony Hernandez is 6th, the pole sitter, followed by defending series champion Jordan Forbes in 7th, Matthew Hubert down to 8th, Caleb Rose in 9th, while Johnny Hernandez rounds off the rest of the top 10. So here we go, your entire top 10 all in the single frame. Well, 11th on down, all ways back, so that's definitely going to play into this top 10's advantage here. Now, I mentioned in the track info that the approximate pit window for today's race is anywhere between 30 to 35 laps, so all these teams are doing 4 tires, which appears that everyone's going to do 4 tires, and if all these teams stuff as much fuel as they possibly can into these race cars, that this will be the only pit stop that these drivers will have to do today, barring if any overtime finishes happen under Grunwald Checo conditions. But here we go. Bradley Ream is first, followed by Random J, Daniel Voiles, Jordan Forbes, where Matthew Hubert rounds off the rest of the top 5, as it appears that both Nathan Stapleton and Brendan Beal had rather slow pit stops that time by. But anyways, let's take a look at the instant replay and see what caused our first caution here today in Vermont. So all this unfolded towards the middle of the pack, where actually all 4 drivers are right in the center of your screen here, with Dylan Matthews leading the way with Alex Vitali looking to her outside. So here's Vitali looking at the outside of Matthews, but in the turn number 1, Vitali makes contact with Matthews' right rear, sends both drivers into the wall, with Jack Cost and Philip Torres also making contact as well, as sending both those drivers into the wall, and Jack Cost again getting the worst of that with heavy frontal damage to his hood, causing heavy smoke to come out of that car. And of course, when a car does that, that pretty much means it's done for today. Taking us from up above. Yeah, definite contact between Matthews and Vitali, but then Philip Torres tried to slow down to avoid, but instead came down on Jack Cost and sent both those 2 drivers in the wall as well. Let's go on board with Alex Vitali here. So I think Vitali had a run, but instead came down on Matthews for some reason, and just could not get off of her whatsoever. Sent both those drivers into the wall. Let's go on board with Philip Torres. So he was right in front of both Matthews and Vitali and had no choice but to slow down. But unfortunately, slowed down at the worst possible time, as Jack Cost is right there. And speaking of which, let's go on board with Jack Cost. So it looked like initially he hadn't missed because he was well behind both Vitali and Matthews. But again, once Torres slowed down, he came down onto 75. And there was just nothing Jack Cost could have done there except for hold on and hope for the best. But unfortunately, he's going to be done for the day here. But anyways, we're under caution for the first time here today in the Reese's Hot Ring Rumble. We'll be right back with you guys after this. Welcome back to the Reese's Hot Ring Rumble here from Vermont. We're about to go back green after a multi-car incident in turn number 2 that started when Alex Vitali in 99 got into the back of the 49 of Dylan Matthews, sending both those cars into the wall. And as a result of both those 2 making contact, the 41 of Philip Torres tried to slow down to avoid, but instead he got sent up into the wall by the 75 of Jack Haas, who is currently the only car out of this race. Anyways, eyes for your top 3. Bradley Ream in the 6th is your leader, followed by 3rd in points Random J and the 01 of Daniel Voiles. As here we go, we're back on the green here in Vermont. And even though Random was the first back to the line, Bradley Ream gets a great jump through turns 1 and 2, easy clear to 53, continuing down the dogleg backstretch with Daniel Voiles side by side of Random once again. Through turns 3 and 4, Reed's got to be very careful here. If Random maintained the middle, he's been very strong throughout the entire day. He's making no exception here, as the 2 Giano veterans can be side by side for the lead off turn number 4. Coming to lap number 19 is going to be Random J, who will maintain the lead over Ream, as here's Jordan Forbes now fast approaching, as he's going to be side by side of Ream into turns 1 and 2. But old Forbes had to check up, and as a result, he's losing a lot of ground on the outside lane, as he's now going to be side by side with Daniel Voiles for 3rd. Matthew Huber now trying to get down to the inside, down this dogleg, as there's Ream once again side by side with Random, continuing down the back into the turns 3 and 4. But once again, Random pulls away on the middle line, as here's Jordan Forbes also in the middle line, as he'll clear Bradley Ream for 2nd off turn number 4. Yeah, for Bradley, the only way to get back at both Random and Forbes at this point is to go to the middle line into turns 3 and 4, but those 2 have been so good all day of maintaining that middle line, as because the other drivers will move up the racetrack trying to get that run into turns 3 and 4, that middle line to potentially challenge both Random and Forbes for the lead. Let's see what's going to happen here into turns 3 and 4. Looks like as Forbes looks to the inside of Random for the lead, Matthew Huber's on the lead driver on the middle line, as he easily gets around Voiles, and is now going to be side by side of Reed for 3rd off of 4. Huber's going to easily go around Reed for 2nd. Coming to lap number 20 was, oh, look at this! Here's Huber looking at the inside of Forbes for 2nd. You know, just behind your top 5, or 3 wide for 6, with Brendan Beal on the inside, Staples stuck in the middle, and Carol Bros on the outside, off of Anthony Hernandez. Continuing down this dogleg, those 3 drivers are still 3 wide. Matthew Huber now look at the inside of Random down the back chevrolet and into turn number 3. And oh, Hubert had to check up big time that time by using a lot of ground to both drivers. And speaking of which, here's Forbes looking to the outside of Random J and will clear the 53 off turn number 4. And you saw there that the roles was seemingly reversed, with Random being the sitting duck on the inside, where Forbes used the middle line to his advantage and easily got around as the defending series champion goes to the lead for the first time here today. Meanwhile, for 2, here's Caleb Rose side by side with Matthew Hubert for 3rd. But behind both these two, Brad Reem is side by side with Anthony Hernandez for 5th. And Rose got a very strong run off the dogleg that time by. He's going to make it 3 wide for 2nd into turn number 3. Looks like no, he won't. Hubert instead is going to maintain 3rd over Rose. Now challenge Random J for 2nd, with Anthony Hernandez also fast approaching, as he's also going to be side by side with Random off of 4. But looks like in the turns 1 and 2, Random's going to maintain advantage over Anthony, as here's Caleb Rose once again with a strong run on the inside, as he's going to be side by side with the 88 car. In the turns 3 and 4, both Reem and Hernandez move up to the racetrack. Random also tries so as well, but there was no room for him whatsoever, as here's a strong run from Anthony off for turn number 4, and will easily clear Jordan Forbes for the lead to lead lap number 23. Now, I of course mentioned during the pre-race that Hernandez is desperately looking for a good point stay here today. As going into today's race, he was 25th in the point standings after losing 10 positions after wrecking out during the last lap of the Firecracker 400. And at this point in the game, Hernandez pretty much needs to win to keep himself even relevant in this championship picture, as he came into this race 50 points back for the points leader Brad Rodriguez. And both Brad Rodriguez and Matthew Hill pretty much nowhere to be seen as of right now. And that stays that way for the rest of this race. This could be a huge point day for everybody thrown on back, as everyone thrown on back is double-digit points behind your point leader, and one of those is, of course, Random J, who came to this race 3rd in points. And if both Rodriguez and Hill continue to struggle, this could be a huge point stay for Random J. If Random's car being as strong as it is so far here today, there's a very good chance that the Channel veteran in his final NR season could take over the points lead after today's race is all said and done with. But now in the turns 3 and 4, Hubert's all over the back bumper of Forbes. As now looks to the inside to 61 as well. Both him and Forbes, as well as Caleb Rose, have to check up that time by, but Brandon Reem's going to be the biggest winner out of all of that, as he easily gets around Random J. Is now going to challenge Hernandez for the lead, coming to lap number 26, and will clear the 88 car to take back the lead here in Vermont. So just like that, we have a Dodge leading this race once again. Referee back up to 1st, Hernandez down to 2nd, Random back down to 3rd, now trying to look to the inside of the 88 car down this backstretch dogleg, with Matthew Hubert once again to the inside of Jordan Forbes. In the turns 3 and 4, once again, it's going to be Forbes and Rose as now the 2 lead drivers in the middle line, with Forbes easily going around Random. This time by is now going to challenge Hernandez for 2nd this time by as well. Off of 4, coming to lap number 27, Forbes and Hernandez remain side by side for the lead, while Random J and Rose remain side by side for 4th. As we now head into turn number 1, Reem's going to maintain the lead, with Hernandez maintaining 2nd for now, with Random once again side by side for 3rd to Forbes. So it really does appear that turns 1 and 2 seem to benefit the inside the most, but turns 3 and 4 benefit the middle line the most, as you see once again Jordan Forbes and Brandon Reem as well get huge runs that time by, as in addition to Reem maintaining the lead, both Forbes and Hernandez maintain 2nd and 3rd, or Random and Rose are side by side for 4th. On board with Brandon Reem do turns 1 and 2, as pretty much everyone is in this top 11 or so except for Caleb Rose, all single file on this inside lane. But now off the dogleg, here's Forbes looking to the inside of Brandon Reem for the lead, as we're side by side once again in the turns 3 and 4, with Brandon Reem in the middle. He's going to maintain the lead over Forbes, with Hernandez getting the strong run that time by there as well. And you can see because of Reem being in the middle line that time by, he's going to get a huge gap over the rest of the field. Coming to lap number 29, as there's Caleb Rose once again side by side of Jordan Forbes. Looks like in the turns 1 and 2 this time by, Forbes is going to maintain 2nd over Caleb Rose, with Random J losing ground as he's now side by side with Nathan Stapleton off turn number 2. Continuing down this backstretch and off this dogleg, there you see a strong run from Jordan Forbes off the dogleg that time by, as in the turns 3 and 4, the 2 drivers in the middle will be the 2 NS Racing teammates of Nathan Stapleton and Matthew Hubert. There was Staple challenging Rose for 3rd, and Hubert side by side with Random J off for turn number 4. As Staple easily clears Rose for 3rd, here's Hubert side by side with Hernandez for 4th, coming to lap number 30, as now Staple going to the inside of Forbes for 2nd. The turns 1 and 2, as Hubert loses ground, Staple is going to be side by side with Forbes for 2nd, as he continues to battle off for turn number 2. Forbes maintained the top down the backstretch in the turns 3 and 4. He's going to maintain 2nd over Staple, with Staple checking up that time by, with Matthew Hubert once again back up towards the middle. And you can see once again, because both Reem and Forrest maintain the top through turns 3 and 4, they have a huge gap over the rest of the field. We'll see if anyone's behind it could potentially make up this ground. With Hubert trying to challenge Staple for third down with Random J side by side with Daniel Voiles once again. But as this racing continues here in lap number 31, it's time for another edition of Palm Summer League Crank It Up. It is lap number 38 of 48 here in Vermont, as we have only 11 laps to go to decide the race's Hotring Rumble. As things currently stand now, Bradley Ream is your leader, followed by defending series champion Jordan Forbes, the 97 and 8th in Stapleton, and Staples' teammate Matthew Hubert in 4th, making up this Dodge Quadrifecta in this top 4, while Anthony Hernandez rounds off the rest of the top 5. But for now, let's take a look at some of the drivers running a little bit further back in the field, starting with the third NS Racing driver, Rowley Spurly, who came in this race 12th in points. Behind him in 12th is Keith Richardson, the 24, who came in this race 17th in points after losing 14 spots after the Firecracker 400 as a result of a flat tire that the team had third place under green flag conditions and trapped the 24 car a lap down for the rest of that race. Other drivers back here include the 84 Jaxon, Bergem in 13th, Madison Chase in the 06 and 14th, Patrick Mill in the 62 and 15th, while dual number 2 under Jason Albert is currently running in 16th. Behind was rookie Campbell Marsh in 17th, as well as fellow rookie Alexander Rowe in 18th, while Nick Sant currently runs 19th in the 20 as he came in this race 10th in the standings. Saw the brief video of Alex Mullen as he rounds off the rest of the top 20. Joe Tina 17 and 21st, while 22nd is another underwhelming performance for Jose Angel Gutierrez in the 94. Also back here is the summer kickoff winner Bibi Ruiz in 23rd, Al Bunch in 24th, while 25th is second in points and firecracker winner Matthew Hill. And just a few cars behind them is the point leader of Brian Rodriguez. So despite us coming to 9 laps to go here in Vermont, the 2 point leaders are still struggling to make up any ground. The same goes to be said for both Benny Watson and Roberto Crown Jr. as they both came this race inside the top 5 in the points. And if that remains for the rest of this race, then of course is definitely going to shake up the championship standings after the day's race is over with. And if finally as for the last 2 cars on track, Jordan Stout, despite restarting within the top 15, is currently the last car on the lead lap, all the way down to 38th as he completely lost the pace with the rest of the field, with the only other car even being around him being the 41 of Philip Torres, who of course got damaged during a long caution so far here today. Came down pit road to do some additional repairs to that heavily destroyed race car. So definitely a lot of big storylines even outside this race for the win, as a lot of big name drivers are up in the points, are struggling here today in Vermont. But speaking of race for the win, is of course only going to heat up with less than 8 laps to go this time by, as they're on board with Jordan Forbes, still running second right behind Bradley Ream. And just up ahead, you see the last 2 cars on track that I mentioned a little earlier. That of course being Jordan Stout and Philip Torres. These leaders will catch those 2 drivers within the next 2 laps or so, maybe even less. But regardless of how long it takes for the leaders to catch up those lap cars, it could potentially alter the entire outcome of this race. And as the drivers behind the top 6 continue to battle for positions, oh my goodness, the lap cars are right there. As you come to 6 laps to go, these leaders will catch the 2 lap cars this time by, as you see Bradley already moving down to the inside as well as Jordan Forbes in the turns 1 and 2. But the lap cars also move down to the inside to block the leaders. Are going to slow down your entire running order here. It looks like off the dog leg, Bradley's going to clear Torres in the turns 3 and 4. Whoa, he gets in this down, so he stays it. Oh, Stable gets into 4, sends him into the wall with everyone else piling in behind. Oh my goodness, and just like that, we're back under the caution flag late here in Vermont with several drivers piling in. Jason Albert, Caleb Rose went spinning there. I think Lipsy was on his roof in the 9 car. Heavy damage to Benny Watson and Roberto Crown. 2 drivers up there, of course, in the points. Kyle Shush drive damage, and damage also to Matthew Burnett. Oh my goodness. And just like that, the entire outcome of this race has changed. And it's looking like for just the 2nd time this summer, this race will end with a green-white checkered finish. And it was like that time by Bradley Remus, the leader, followed by Matthew Huber and Daniel Volos, which still got cars piled up here off turn number 4. See Joe T going around, I guess trying to get on pit road. Oh, watch out, hoping he doesn't make contact with the leaders. Oh, I got more spinning. Benny Watson goes around, as well as Haley Anderson and Roberto Crown in front of Ryan Wilson. Kyle Shusha also getting a piece there as well. Benny Watson getting into Random J. Hopefully he doesn't send the 53 round. He is going to send Random around into the wall. So definitely lots of carnage and lots of chaos that these officials need to sort out before we finish this race. And before we see the finish of this race, we of course need to take a look at the instant replay to see what caused this late race caution that took out several contenders in the process. So all just started off the backstretch dogleg. Of course, the leaders of Bradley Ream, Jordan Flores, and Nathan Stapleton, and everyone else behind them were trying to get around the lap drivers just up ahead of Jordan Stout in the 11 and the 41 of Philip Torres. So Stout and Torres are to the outside, but into turns 3 and 4 here, as Stout moves down, he comes down right in front of Bradley, sends him around, but they managed to save it. But that causes a chain reaction with Staple getting into Forbes, sends those 2 into the wall, with everyone else behind all piled in with Lipsy going on his roof there. So let's take a look at this from up above. So the leaders got around Torres just fine, but then comes Jordan Stout now into turns 3 and 4, moving down in front of Bradley Ream, sends the 11 car around, but even though both Ream and Stout managed to save it, it causes a huge chain reaction. It stacks up everyone else behind them, with Staple getting in the Forbes, with Torres going in the wall as well, with, again, pretty much everyone piling in right behind, with absolutely nowhere to go for any of these drivers. Let's go on board with the defending series champion, Jordan Forbes. So again, they're able to get around Torres just fine, but then here comes Jordan Stout into turns 3 and 4 here, moving down in front of Bradley Ream to make contact, and Forbes on the brakes, stacks up everyone behind him, with Staple getting into the 16-1, sends him into the wall and around. Definitely a tough break for the defending series champion of Forbes as he came to this race 6th in the point standings after a rather mediocre firecracker, so it's definitely going to have a huge impact in his hopes of defending his championship. On board of Nathan Stapleton. So Staples essentially forced up to the outside by his own teammate, Matthew Hubert, but then here comes the contact between Stout and Ream coming up. Bam. And as a result, both Forbes and Staple go on the brakes, with Staple slowing down and getting into the right rear of Forbes, which was pretty much the biggest catalyst of all of this carnage happening. On board of Madison Chase, who was just outside the top 10 when all this started to unfold. So you see everyone in front of her and behind her slowing down. She tries to avoid, but there's just nowhere for her to go. It's in the rally Spurly, heavy front of damage there for the 06. Definitely tough break for Madison, who's had an absolutely terrible season up to this point and was having a decent day going for her up until this happened. And finally, on board of Owen Miles. So again, even though this happened well in front of him, of course the stack causes everyone else behind him to slow down as well. Oh my god. See Lipsy barrel rolling. It was definitely Benny Watson who got into the 9 card that sent them flipping. But regardless, it's another disappointment for the returning channel veteran. But anyways, we're under a late caution flag here in Vermont for the Reese's Hot Ring Rumble, as we'll be right back with you guys for our first attempt at a green-white checkered finish. So of course, this being just the second time this summer we've had a green-white checkered finish, of course this would be a good time to explain the format. Of course, with the caution coming out with 5 laps to go or less, the race will be extended via a green-white checkered finish. And the maximum attempts we have for a green-white checkered finish is locked at 3 attempts. And of course, once the leader takes the white flag, the race length will be official with no more attempts. And finally, to be crystal clear, even if a caution flag comes out on the final lap, the winner of the race will still be determined on who gets to the start-finish line first, and not at the moment of yellow. We saw this exact scenario unfold in Motegi, where a caution came out on the white flag lap. Even though Benny Watson was the leader of that race, and during the moment of caution, it was Caleb Rose who still won the race, as he was the first driver back to the start-finish line. But anyways, coming back to a live broadcast here in Vermont, we're about to go back green after a massive incident in turns 3 and 4, which started when the lap driver Jordan Stout into turns 3 and 4 came down right in front of Bradley Ream. And even though both those two were able to manage to save it, the drivers behind them weren't so fortunate, with Nathan Stapleton, who was running 3rd, getting into 2nd place. Jordan 4th sent those 2 drivers into the wall, with pretty much everyone all piling in, kind of like ARCA style, with seemingly no one using their brakes. But anyways, your race leader is Bradley Ream in the 6th car, who's led by far the most laps out of anyone here today, of 27 laps. He looks to be in great position to get his first channel win in 3 years. Meanwhile, next to him is rookie Matthew Hubert, who looks to join the footsteps of both Bibi Ruiz and Haley Anderson as rookies who've won so far this summer. Meanwhile, Daniel Voiles in 3rd is also looking to get his first ever channel win. And finally are the 2 former summer champions of Brendan Beal in 4th and Anthony Hernandez in 5th, as those 2 are also looking to end their long winless streaks on the channel. But of course, only one driver can win, and only one of these stories can be fulfilled, as here we go. Green Red Checkered, attempt number 1 here for Vermont. A great restart from Matthew Hubert on the outside, is into turns 1 and 2 this time, but he comes down right in front of Bradley Ream. But now, coming down this backstretch for the second to last time, both Hubert and Ream move up to the outside. This is Daniel Voiles with a strong run on the inside. But remember, in the turns 3 and 4, the middle line is the place to be. Who's going to prevail this time as both Hubert and Ream move down to the inside. Here comes Beal in the middle with a strong run, looking to the outside of Hubert. Brendan Beal is going to clear Matthew Hubert for the lead, as this time by will see the white flag. Only 1 lap to go here in Vermont. This race length is now official. We'll check into turns 1 and 2. Bradley Ream forces Hubert to the outside, as there's a strong run for the 6th car of turn number 2 for the final time. Off the backstretch dogleg for the final time. Here's Ream to the inside of Beal into turns 3 and 4 for the final time, as both the rail fender drivers move down to the inside, as Hubert's once again in the middle, but it's not going to be enough. And coming off turn number 4, it's New York's Brendan Beal, who will see the checkered flag and win here today in Vermont. And for the first time since the 2022 Southern 500, Brendan Beal will go back to victory lane, as this will also mark his first ever Palm Summer League win, despite of course winning the championship back in 2023. But of course, we will take a look at the replay of that final restart to see how Brendan Beal managed to win here today. So here's the field coming to the restart. So you see Matthew Hubert getting a strong run on the outside into turns 1 and 2. He clears Bradley Reese, moving down to the inside. And then off of turn number 2, down the back, both Hubert and Reese move up to the outside briefly before moving back down to the inside. Reese trying to block Daniel Voiles, but into turns 3 and 4, everyone knows the middle line is the best place to be. Hubert and Reese instead up for the inside, while Beal maintains the middle, where he gets that strong run, easily passing his teammate and Matthew Hubert off turn number 4. And it was pretty much just smooth sailing for Brendan Beal the rest of the way, and they had pretty much no opposition on that final lap. And of course, with this being Beal's first channel win in nearly 3 years, he's going to do some burnouts in front of the sold-out crowd here in Vermont. Of course, a big congratulations to Brendan Beal and Railfan Motorsports, as they are winners for the 2025 edition of the Reese's Hot Ring Rumble. But anyways, let's take a look at the finishing results and point standings after the day's race. So here we go. Of course, Brendan Beal wins the 2025 edition of the Reese's Hot Ring Rumble here for Vermont. And in addition as well, Beal will become just the 5th driver in channel history to win 5 races on the channel, joining in a rather elite group consisting of Dan Mattiello, Matthew Burnett, Nick Sant, and Johnny Hernandez as the only drivers on this channel to win 5 races on the channel. In fact, 5 races is the most out of any. Those 5 drivers are on a 5-way tie of having the most wins in across all the races on this channel. So with Burnett, Nick Sant, Hernandez, and now Beal all still being active, one of those 4 drivers have a chance of breaking that tie during these final 2 races here in the Palm Summer League. Meanwhile, Beal's team owner Bradley Reese probably had the best car out of any driver here today, winning the most laps of 27 laps, so he gets the bonus point for that. But still, a 2nd place finish is still very, very strong for that 6 team after the season, after the summer they've had so far of dismal finishes outside the top 30. Meanwhile, in 3rd place for the 2nd race in a row is rookie Matthew Hubert, who had that incredible final restart. And if Hubert moves up to the middle to potentially block Beal, Hubert could have very well been the 3rd rookie this year to win a PSL race. But still, regardless, another top 3 finish for the 98 team is definitely going to do dividends in the point standings, as you're about to see in the graphics coming up shortly. In 4th is Daniel Voiles, and 4th, similar to Bradley, is another driver way back in the point standings, had a really strong day. Well, pole sitter Anthony Hernandez rounds off the rest of the top 5 for a pretty respectable result for the 88 team. Good result for Random J in 6th, who of course came into this race 3rd in the point standings, so today's finish is definitely going to do very big dividends for him in the championship standings. Good result today for rookie Jaxon Bergem as he finishes 7th, where Raleigh Spurly in 8th gets just his 2nd top 10 finish of the year, with his first ironically also being an 8th place finish at our season opener at Armory Digital. A good rebound race today for Johnny Hernandez as he finishes 9th, where Jose Angel Gutierrez rounds off the rest of the top 10, as Gutierrez and the 94 team finally get their first top 10 of the summer and their first with new manufacturer Chevy. As for 11th through 20th, starting with Matthew Hill finishing 11th, a much better day than that team was looking like they were going to finish. As for much of the race, Hill was running not only below the top 20, but below the top 25. It was looking like he was going to finish around that area. But of course, with that final caution, not only taking out a bunch of drivers, but also bunching everyone back up, it gave a good opportunity for Matthew Hill to pass a lot of cars during those final 2 laps, and he sure did, as he made the absolute most of that final restart and salvage what was otherwise going to be an absolutely terrible points day for the 90 team. Meanwhile, quite the opposite can be said about Nathan Stapleton, who finishes 12th, as he not only was up front for pretty much the entire race, but also looked like he had a car to contend with the likes of Bradley Reese, Matthew Hubert, and Jordan Forbes, until, of course, that final caution with Staple getting into Jordan Forbes, which resulted in pretty much, again, everyone piling in behind, and again, of course, caused a lot of drivers to have their days ruined. Other notable drivers back here include Bibi Ruiz finishing 13th, dual number 2 winner Jason Albert finishing 15th, while Ryan Wilson, similar to Matthew Hill, was another driver running towards the back for pretty much the entire race until that final caution came out, and somehow, some way, Wilson was able to salvage a top 20 finish despite running below the top 25 for much of the entire day. Good result for Kyle Sunshine finishing 17th. Madison Chase will finish 18th despite getting damaged during that final caution, while Alexander Vitale 19th, of course, got into Dylan Matthews, which brought out a first caution earlier in today's race, but San Vitale didn't get got pretty much no damage from that whatsoever, and so brought it home inside the top 20, while Caleb Rose was another driver who was involved in our last caution. He will still regardless finish inside the top 20. As for 21st through 30th, so almost similar to both Madison Chase and Caleb Rose, a number of these drivers back here got damaged during that final caution, but still managed to finish the race, including Owen Miles, Alexander Rowe, Nick Sand, among others. While another notable driver is Brian Rodriguez, who of course came into this race as the point leader, but unlike Matthew Hill, who managed to mostly recover, Rodriguez was never able to recover whatsoever, as this 26th place finisher today is definitely going to have a huge impact in the point standings when we look at the point standing graphic here shortly. As for 31st to 40th, if you saw in the previous graphic, Haley Anderson was the first driver 1 lap down, finishing 30th, while Jordan Stout was the second driver, right behind him in 31st. And in fact, the way Stout actually managed to fall off the pace to begin with is rather odd, as far as you know, he didn't have any sort of mechanical issue, he didn't lose a gear, he didn't get any damage, he didn't come down pit road under green flag conditions, he just simply, as far as you know, lost pace with the rest of the main field, with the only other car being around him throughout the entire race was Philip Torres, finishing 32nd as the last car out on the racetrack, as he of course got damaged during our first caution. And just another note in Stout as well, he actually did restart within the top 15 after our first caution, so it just makes this whole situation with Stout even being back there in the first place just really even more bizarre. And as for everybody else, 33rd on down, they're all out of the race, starting with defending series champion Jordan Forbes. Looked like he had a really good shot of winning today. Probably had a car also comparable of contending with Bradley Ream, but of course that final caution changed absolutely everything. Of this being Forbes' first DNF of the season, this is definitely going to really severely impact his chances of defending his championship. Another bad break for Keith Charlton, as he finished 34th. Patrick Miller finished 35th, while Lipsy, the 9 car, of course, went barrel rolling briefly during that final wreck, will finish 36th. While both Benny Watson and Roberto Crowd, 2 drivers who came this race in the top 5 in the point standings, watching him this race 5th in the standings, while Crowd came this race 4th in the standings, both will finish 38th and 39th. As just like Forrest, this will definitely severely hurt their chances of winning this championship. And finally finishing last is Jack Haas, who got taken out during our first caution of the day. As out of the 4 drivers that were involved in that, San Vitale, Matthews, and Torres, he got by far the worst damage out of those 4, as of course heavy smoke was pouring out of that 75 car. And now for the point standings, after race number 5, only 2 more races to decide the champion for the Palm Summer League in 2025, as well as our final ever channel race. And as you can see, the Firecracker winner Matthew Hill takes over the point standings for 170 points, as he leads Random J by 3 points. Today's winner Brendan Beal by 6 points, and former point leader Brad Rodriguez by 9 points. So even though Rodriguez had a rather mediocre day, he's still only 9 points back from Hill. In fact, everyone in this top 4 are all insanely close to one another. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see how these 4 drivers will perform over these next 2 races at 2 very, very different racetracks. Meanwhile, in 5th, thanks to his 2 consecutive 3rd place finishes, Matthew Hubert makes his first appearance into the top 10 as well as the top 5 in the point standings. In 5th, behind by 21, while Rowdy Spurly is up to 6th in the standings, behind by 24, with Johnny Hernandez in 7th, just behind them, behind by 25 points. Bibi Rose in the 57 is also back into the top 10 in the standings, now in 8th, behind by 28, while Joe T falls down to 9th, now behind by 31. And finally, to round off the rest of the top 10, just barely hanging on to the rest of the championship picture, is defending series champion Jordan Forbes, who needs a really strong race at our next race to keep his hopes of defending his championship alive. And speaking of that race, race number 6, our second to last race of the summer, will bring us to Tulsa, Oklahoma, the home of the Progressive Speedway, for potentially the final Super Speedway race ran on the channel, which will happen Sunday night, August 10th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, barring any delays. In addition as well, the race name for this particular race was decided by y'all, the viewers, and I do plan to reveal the winner of this race name within the coming days. But as always, y'all, thank you guys for once again watching this race. Also, thank y'all for bearing with me for the amount of delays this race had. But for now, once again, thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.